Welcome to Teapot Genies. We're still at the Rocks, and here we've found a little cottage that would have been typical of the houses that the Irish immigrants would have come to in the mid-1800s. This episode we go to Cobh in County Cork. I found Cobh to be one of the most interesting places that we visited in Ireland.
This is a significant site for Australians and Americans, as it was one of the embarkation points from which convicts and immigrants travelled to both countries.
Also, Cobh was the final port of call for the Titanic on its fateful voyage just before it entered the Atlantic Ocean. I think you'll find this a really interesting episode.
Located outside Cobh Historical Centre is the statue of Annie Moore and her two brothers. Annie Moore became the first ever emigrant to be processed on Ellis Island in the USA when it officially opened on the 1st of January 1892. They sailed from this site. While at the Water's Edge Hotel, we interviewed Mary Broderick, a local historian and an expert in the area of Cobh. Mary, what is the background of transportation from Cobh?
Well, the background is that back into the 15th century, 95% of the Irish Catholics owned the land in Ireland. But after the Reformation, they were evicted from their lands, and unless they turned Protestants, they wouldn't be allowed to hold the land. They were actually very badly off on small holdings. Still, they got married young and had many children. The population increased to 8 million. The jails became full because for stealing something like a spoon costing 2 shillings, the penalty was transportation. They were transported to the West Indies, to Virginia and different parts of America. But then after the American Civil War, no more could they transport to America, and then they decided it was New South Wales, Van Diemen's Land.
When did the first transport ship leave Cobh?
That was in 1791. She was named the Queen.
How long did it take for the transport ships to reach Australia from here?
The Queen took 5 months, and at the time the indent for the Queen didn't actually reach Van Diemen's Land until 9 years later, meaning that some people would say 5 years, 6 years, 7 years would have overdone their time. They didn't seem to be great with the paperwork.
When the other ships followed, were they mainly families trying to meet up with the convicts that had gone to Australia before them?
Not really at the beginning. You had the Boddington, you had the Sugarcane, you had the Britannia. And on the Britannia there was, if you like, a mutiny, as the officers had stored on food that they wanted to sell when they got to Van Diemen's Land, and the food ran out, so there was a mutiny which was quelled. Then in 1830 it was realised that there was quite a lot of men had been transported, but few women. So the Parliament decided that they'd send what was known as free transportation, women from the age of 15 to 30 years. But any families that wanted to go out to the husband that had been sent to transportation, if they were over the age of 30 or under the age of 15, had to pay their fare. Now, when the ships were leaving, there was a lady by the name of Caroline Chisholm, and she inspected the ships to make sure that the conditions for the women travelling out were as near as possible to first class, and she really succeeded in this. And then, of course, eventually young men also went out on the free transport. There was 29,000 people left on the free transport, and there was 45,000 convicts left from here in the 77 years that transportation was taking place.
So they were specifically Irish convicts?
Oh yes, they were all Irish. Sometimes it happened that the ship took on convicts in England and then called here maybe to Dublin, but Cobh was the principal port for the transport ships, and they were from the jails around the country. They'd be brought here, and of course we had the hulk, the prison hulk, the Surprise, anchored down here at the eastern end of the harbour, and that was the holding ship until the prison ship arrived.
The conditions on the hulk were pretty treacherous?
They were indeed, and this caused a disease even before they boarded the transport ship. So there were some doctors who became very concerned and eventually went to the Parliament, and in 1847 they stopped using the hulk, and then they took over Spike Island, Fort Westmoreland, and that was where the prisoners were held until the prison ship arrived.
Mary, doing my family history, I've noticed that in a family of 6 children, 3 might go to America, 2 to Australia, and 1 stay here. Would there be any rhyme or reason to this happening?
Well, what they all wanted really was to get to America if possible, because conditions were so bad. They had got letters home. It may have taken 2 years from the convicts in Australia. Some of the families heard they were getting food, 4 square meals a day. They had a bed to themselves, which was very enticing to some of the real poverty-stricken relatives. However, there were others who wanted to get a better life, and America was the place they wanted to go to. Now, of course, emigration to America was almost as bad as transportation to Australia.
Getting on to genealogy, what advice can you give to people researching their family history in Ireland?
Well, if they could get as much detail as possible before they come. Some people come and they think their people left from were natives of Cobh, or Queenstown as it was called, because they left from here, and they may have found papers with Queenstown or Cobh on them.
Well, thank you, Mary. It's been wonderful talking to you. It's been really interesting. You've put on a beautiful day for us.
Thank you, Kay. It's been a pleasure.
There you go. If you need a family researcher here in Cork, contact Mary. She's your man or lady. If you're interested in contacting Mary to help you with your research, email us on btv@bananatv.com and we'll put you in contact with Mary. In the next episode, we stay in Cobh to continue our discussions on immigration and transportation. We'll see you then.